Hello and welcome to Seeing Red. It is Monday, September 29th, 2025. I'm Will Leitch here as always with the great Bernie Miklasz. Follow us on Twitter/X/Blue Sky at Seeing Red Pod. Emails seeingredpod@gmail.com. The baseball season is over for the Cardinals. The playoffs are starting. Congratulations to playoff team, the Reds. I guess I feel like listen. My general theory, by the way, is if it were like 1992, the Reds would be actually a scary team to face in the short series because they've got really good starting pitching.
Yep.
But the problem is they don't have anything else, and the Dodgers also have really
Yep.
good starting pitching and everything else. But anyway, good for
Yeah. Oh, and by the
good for
way,
the
we
Reds.
we must note that the Cardinals, even with the like a $38 million payroll reduction, still outspent the Reds this year.
Yeah,
So
so there you go. There you go. And
so
don't remind the Cardinals. Don't remind the Cardinals.
that's
That will
right.
not make them spend more. They'll make them spend less. And so this is our last show of the regular season. Right now, John Mozeliak is talking. I believe he's doing his kind of end of the year
Right.
press conference. That would be a bigger deal if he were still in charge. So it's really just kind of a goodbye. And we've given plenty of. I thought I was actually pretty happy with last week's show. I think we got a lot of nice feedback on last
Good.
week's show for. I think giving Mo a fair all-encompassing look while getting after him where it needed to be, but also not
Sure.
just fully praising him. But I also feel like I don't need to hear from Mo
Sure.
anymore. Like
The only, the only thing, and we're going to talk about this. The only thing I'd say, let's reserve the right based on your schedule. If Chaim Bloom, when he speaks tomorrow, and that's going to be an event,
yeah, well, I'm going to preview that a little
he's
bit.
going to
Yeah.
lay it all out. Now, if it's anything really juicy, we ought to have an emergency
Well, you don't have
seeing
to ask
red.
me twice, Bernie. Believe you me,
Yeah.
I'm
So
reminding everybody here that like this is our last show of the regular season,
yeah.
but I will send up the Bernie bat signal
Okay.
at every opportunity. One thing I wanted to close the loop on about last week's show, though, a couple people pointed out something that I actually had made a note to bring up and had forgotten, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, Bernie.
Sure.
A few people brought up the idea we talked about pivot moments, and I argued that maybe Heyward going to the Cubs was one. Maybe the Cubs' ascendance was one. Maybe it was some of the bad signings. A lot of people pointed out the death of Oscar Taveras as a key pivot moment in kind of the Mo era, and that he was clearly he was being built to be the next superstar. And and there was a little bit of a slow start, kind of a sporadic start when he kind of came up. Though frankly, when you compare it to the Jordan Walker next superstar slow start, the Taveras start actually looks kind of amazing. And he also, of course, had that great that great postseason homer before his tragic death. That actual off season, I think like a week and a half later after that home run that he hit. And I'm curious, Bernie. I do think that they had clearly planned for Taveras to be that next superstar and had to pivot. And I think that, like, obviously it was a tragedy, but they also had to pivot a lot in the wake of it. I don't think Heyward ever comes if they don't do that.
No.
I don't know if that means Shelby Miller would have turned out to be some great pitcher. We can certainly debate what it was, but I do think I did feel like that needed to be noted that. Part of the excitement about that like 15 team and so much that was going on and that era's team was not only did they have these good guys, they were pivoting into an era of obviously not saying Tavares was going to be the next Pujols, but the next superstar that theoretically they were going to build around. And that obviously it didn't happen in a tragic way. I was curious your thoughts to put that in the context of
Well,
everything with the end of
yeah.
Mo and Tavares.
Listen. I understand. I understand the point. I understand the principle. I do. And it was a very traumatic thing for John Mozeliak. Very. I mean, he was really shaken by this, not only by the loss of life and the way it happened, and Oscar Taveras also killing his girlfriend in the drunken driving accident. It was just a devastating occurrence all the way around. Um, but I have to say this. I mean, I would be less than honest if I didn't say this. He had exceptional potential, and he was the number one rated prospect. Not that that means anything, but I'll say this: when he came up, um, and some veteran players, and I'm not talking about the usual cranky types. I'm talking about guys that I respect who get it about younger players, but they also believe in certain standards. A Matt Holliday, for example, there were a lot of visits to the manager's office talking about Oscar Taveras and how immature he was, and how he wasn't putting the work in, how he just didn't sort of understand the difference between when it's time to work and when it's time to play. And then I had a lot of conversations with Tim McCarver, who now some people may want to. I get this too. Why people would say, "Well, Tim McCarver sort of we love him, but he sort of became that old school
an older guy, right?
Get off my lawn guy."
Right.
You know, Tim McCarver would insist, like in private. Well, he said it on the air a couple times, but the conversations I had with him, he would insist that he said, he said, "I'm sorry, but this kid, he can't hit a fastball. He just can't hit a fastball. How's he going to be this superstar if he can't hit a fastball?" And then Adam Wainwright told me a story. Even the highlight of Taveras' career, the home run against the Giants in Game 2 at home, which was a huge blow at that time.
Oh yeah.
Wainwright said all the pitchers, how they're all on the top rail, and they're like birds on a rail chirping.
Yeah.
They're like whoever was pitching for the Giants, they were like saying, "Please throw him a changeup. Please throw him a changeup. Please throw him a changeup. Please throw him a changeup." He threw whoever was threw a changeup and he hit a home run because the team saw that he could not hit a fastball. Now that could have changed over time.
Right.
The point I'm making is that, with all due respect, and I'm not trying to be that guy.
Oh, of course, please.
But with all due respect, I can't accept on faith that he would have been a really good or great player. I just can't.
Well, remember, it was him and Jurickson Profar that were always back and forth, 1-2 on the list, and the whole idea was, wow, and both of them got kind of off the slow starts, and there was this idea. I think even someone even floated, what would the Cardinals do a Profar for Taveras trade? Right. And it turned out Profar finally just kind of reached his potential last year before, and then ultimately had the PED suspension.
Well, that might have been why he reached his potential.
Yeah, so that's the thing is that, like, on one hand, but also you want to give people room to grow. Taveras would only be 33 this year,
of course.
So certainly, I do think when you look back at the Mo era, though, 2014 specifically, that 2014 postseason.
Yeah,
does feel that month of October of 2014 is just such a pivot moment. Listen, the Cardinals were really good in 2015. They won 100 games in 2015. Were. But as we talked about last week, they were out of gas by the end of that season. That felt like they were just barely kind of gassing the finish line. In 14, obviously, that's not only the year Taveras dies. Of course, that's also the infamous Michael Wacha come into pinch hit game. I would argue the most inexplicable decision I've ever seen a manager make.
There's no doubt about it,
and that includes Grady Little and all that stuff. It was a one time. It was just absolutely an insane thing to do, and we all knew it at the time, and it resulted immediately. And you covered. I remember you covering that magnificently, Bernie, at the time. I quoted you liberally in Sports on Earth.
Mike Matheny shot me the proverbial daggers when I asked him in the interview room after. I said, "Listen, you lost 3 close games in a row, and at no point did Trevor Rosenthal, your best reliever, pitch in any of those 3 games. Did you think about bringing him in tonight instead of Wacha, who hadn't pitched in 30 days or whatever?" And he looked at me and daggers, daggers. He says, "Everybody knows you don't bring in your closer in a tie game on the road."
Oh my gosh!
I just sat there. And
I remember you tweeted that out.
I remember. So I tweeted that at like Keith Law.
Oh my gosh! I lost
a lot of my friends, a lot of national guys, a lot of Cardinals fans. So they're like, "You have got to be kidding."
Yeah,
Mike. If you lose the game, season's over.
But so it's like tied, so it's not that important because it's not a safe situation, Bernie.
Oh my gosh!
Everybody has this like Matheny revisionism. Do not forget what happened.
And then the year before, I know that's what I like about you and I. We branch off into things. And the year before, it's like it took him to game 5, maybe. Towards like, I better not pitch to David Ortiz.
Yeah, no, and the bunting before that. And we don't have to go to the Matheny rabbit hole. But
anyway, but
Taveras. I think
one other thing though. I'm sorry. I think you could argue there could be 2 pivot points.
Mm-hmm.
The Taveras death was a pivot point. They go and get Heyward, which was a really good remedy. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a real and they offered him a ton of money. They offered him more than the Cubs did. to me, it was a huge pivot point. Even though the Cardinals came back the following year and won 100 games. No, that was the year they did win 100 games.
Yeah,
Sorry, my bad.
yeah.
The Cubs won the World Series with them, but whatever. I'm getting lost in my own words. All right. To me, it was a huge pivot point, and it was kind of stunning. When Heyward, everyone thought he was going to re-sign with the Cardinals, and the Cardinals let it be known they made the best offer. Where Heyward said, no, I want to go to the Cubs. And he
They're
basically
building something
said,
over there. Yeah.
they're building something over there. You got this young, fun team, and there's you could just see the excitement, and I want to be part of that. And you're thinking, whoa, haven't things changed around here?
Yeah.
I thought that was a pivot as well.
And that was always a worry for a worry for years as a Cardinal fan anyway, because you always wondered when the Cubs were going to wake up and realize, we could be like the Yankees of this division. We could be what we wanted to be,
right.
And they're still not that now, even though they're in the playoffs.
Right. And he rejected them for the Cubs, who had very little success other than 2015 was nice. Don't get me wrong, but I thought it was more about he loved the youth of the team, the enthusiasm, because even back then,
and he was right, by the way.
Yeah, and even back then, when whether we want to maybe some people push back, which is fine. The Cardinals, even in 2015, 2014, they were a very buttoned down, uptight.
Yeah,
this is how we do things here. And Matheny was, pardon the expression, he was a tight ass. I mean, he just always tense, always uptight about everything, always borderline paranoid.
He was seeing ghosts everywhere. You could just see it. Yeah.
If I'm Heyward, I can understand it. Yeah. But at the time, it was kind of like a wow moment.
I mean, listen, an argument can be made the pivot moment is hiring Matheny, if I'm being entirely honest. But that's we don't even have another Matheny conversation on the show. So anyway, we'll see what Mo said today. But good for Mo. Like, in all seriousness, I'm glad we had that show last week. I do feel that we gave him a fair accounting, and he will. I say it all the time. He will deserve the red jacket that he gets from the Cardinals, and I'm glad that the final games of him in St. Louis were not. He was not showered with booze. It was polite. It was muted. It was weird. Sure. It was fine. I will say, though, it's hard to put a better final punctuation point on the last on a pivot into a new era than that Cubs series this weekend, particularly that game Sunday, in which more power to Thomas Segasi. We'll see what happens with him this year in the future. I feel like it will seem amazing when we look back during this Cardinals last moments, the pre-Bloom era, where it's like, Thomas Segasi was the cleanup man in the final game that they played before that, and I think it's like you see so many things that have been frustrating about as we kind of close this season. About this season, how things spinning in place. It's unbelievable that literally in Jordan Walker's last at bat of the season, 0-2, timeout. I listen to the audio broadcast, simulcast with the MLB TV games. It's my dad and I do that. And Rooney and Horton, every single time, as soon as he gets 0-2, they're like, 2, 3, 2. Well, there's the timeout. Walker always calls timeout. 0-2, and then of course I knew he was either going to strike out on a pitch out of the strike zone or a fastball right down the middle, and that is exactly what happened. And I couldn't really put a better point on this year, right? Like they won 78 games. That's not terrible. Like 78 games all told. If you told me going into the year, that sounds about right. Like if 78 feels almost even like maybe on the high end of things you might have expected this year.
Yeah, I mean they're based on run differential and other underlying factors. I looked at Clay Davenport. I mean the Cardinals should have won somewhere between 73 and 74 games this year. They actually exceeded what they should have done.
Yeah, there was a stretch that it wasn't like that. But that's really the second half collapse. Yeah. But,
so I mean it was a strange year. I understand the runway thing, but there was to me, we talked about this a lot. I'll be brief. It was contradictory because it put Oli Marmol, and he never complained publicly, but it put him in a really tough spot. It's like, okay, we still want to win. And they tell us, hey, we want to win. And he says, I'm trying to win games, but it's not just like, okay, I got to try to win this game and set this lineup no matter what. Because there's this other obligation that he agreed to, which is to play the younger guys. Sometimes he didn't. I mean, it just was a big scrambled mess. I mean, because of even what the priorities were. And I think that's an impossible situation to put a manager in. I really do. But listen, Will, to me, the bottom line is pretty simple on this team. And it's been going this way because last year's offense was pretty bad. Last year's rotation was better, but it's because they had to scramble to plug in those 3 veterans they signed. And, when you don't have starting pitching and you don't have power and you don't have speed that can manufacture runs, I mean, tell me how you win a lot of games.
Yeah, it's again 78 wins is kind of remarkable when you kind of look back at it.
Because of the 2 years in a row, Oli Marmol, and there are still deniers out there, and I have no idea what games they're watching. 2 years in a row, Oli Marmol did about as good as any manager in baseball running a bullpen. That's why they exceeded where they should have been in the win column, because they protected late leads incredibly well over 2 years. So, if it weren't for that, I think the bottom really would have fallen out. We would have been looking at another 85, 90 lost team, something like that. Well, they already were just about at 84. We would have been looking at about another 88, 89, 90 lost team, but the bullpen saved them from, bottoming out that way. So I don't know. I don't see the thing about it. I'd like to say, well, they could have done this. They could have done that. What are you going to do when you're from June 30th to the end of the season? You're tied for last in runs. You're 29th in homers. You're 29th in slugging, 29th in OPS. Your starting pitching's in the bottom 5. You don't steal bases because you're not fast as a team. Tell me exactly how they were. Oh, and by the two guys that the whole runway season was built around, Gorman and Walker. Gorman had a 3-month stretch where he was really good. But before that and after that, he was the Gorman we don't like as a hitter.
Right.
Walker was just a lost cause. So when those two guys, even though everyone agrees the hitting coach is really good, the other guys swear by Brent Brown. And even these two guys, I don't know about Walker. I don't think he takes coaching well, but Gorman swears by Brent Brown. So we can't do the St. Louis thing and blame the hitting coach.
Right.
But what are you going to do when you build this whole runway season? Your 2 primary guys, Walker and Gorman, and both of them flopped. I mean, Gorman, not as much, but they both flopped. What are you going to do? Tell me how you get to 80, 83, 84 wins or whatever. You don't.
Yeah. And that to me is what, there's been some debate. I'm curious your thoughts about this. I was discussing this with my friend Will Haraway, who does music for the show.
Yeah, I love
about
Will.
The idea of, should they have just did giving Mo this last season of handing off to Bloom slow anything down? Did it hurt anything? What if Mo at the end of last year just says, I'm out, and Bloom is running everything this year? Is that a positive, a negative, or would it have not mattered for this season? I personally tend to veer toward the idea, you know what? Nothing was happening this year other than watching the runway seasons. It's kind of nice to not look at this season and be like, wow, great start, Bloom. Like at a certain level, it allows you to kind of get. We talked about this last year, right? It kind of allows you to be like, yeah, Mo, see, look what you did in your way out. Even though Bloom was like clearly a part of what was going on. We talked about Bloom. I know Katie Wu reported otherwise, but we have our suspicions that the idea that Victor Scott was in center field and Matthew Liberatore was in the rotation beginning of the year definitely had Bloom's fingerprints all over it. So to me, as frustrating as this year's been, and that Walker and Gorman didn't pay off, the idea that Mo got to be the guy to take the hits on this, and now Mo's saying goodbye today, and Bloom saying hello on Tuesday. Now it's Bloom. Now there's no more. But having this year, which was always going to be kind of a spinning its wheels year, kind of year, allowing us to put that on Mo rather than Bloom seems, I wouldn't know if I would say worth it, but ultimately in a year that was kind of a nothing year at the end of the day, other than maybe for Marmol, who we should talk about, I think maybe it was the right thing for the right way for this to all go.
Yeah, here's the way I look at it, and I trust the people that are involved. First of all, it was Chaim Bloom who, when approached by this, and then when Bill DeWitt came into the discussions, it was Chaim Bloom who said, "Listen, I think this rehabilitation or renovation of the player development system is, frankly, it's in really, really bad shape. There's a lot of work to do. We've got to cover so much ground, like basically every aspect of it, from instructors, coaches, technology, bringing in people with like a forward thinking vision about like how you make pitchers better, all this stuff, like funding. I mean, facilities, technology, everything had to be not just tweaked, but like just torn down and rebuilt, right? And he just said, and I also have to hire a big staff. And then, on top of that, I'm going to be looking and doing interviews to hire people that will be in my front office when I take over. So this is a lot of work to do, and I want to get this done right. So it would be best if I just focus on that. And I'm really glad that he did, because I think that was the way to do it. Look, the 2025 team was a lost cause. Like you said, spinning wheels. It wasn't going to go anywhere. So what's the point of having him putting his attention there, primary attention there, and then leaving it to somebody else to supervise the reconstruction of a really, really sorry-ass player development system where their prospects weren't getting what most teams are giving their prospects as far as to help their development. Yeah. It would have been a waste of his time at the major league level. And the other thing is, you nailed it, and you and I are absolutely right. And the more that I've learned, the more that I've learned, the more I believe that. Yet Bloom was really, really smart, because he did have a great relationship with Mo. He does. And Mo really welcomed his thoughts on things and would ask him about it. So he did have an imprint on the 2025 team about how the young guys that he really kind of wanted to see. Yeah. And since it was a runway season, it makes perfect sense that the incoming boss is going to say, well, I really want to look at that Victor Scott in center field. I really want to look at this guy. So to me, it was the best of both worlds, because Bloom got a head start on being the boss while also supervising what is turning out to be a very promising rebuild of the farm system. By the end of the year, both Fangraphs and ESPN had the Cardinals in the top 10 of farm systems, and they were making their own pitchers better. I mean, guys were getting better everyone would look at and say, oh, he's okay. They're giving them they're studying them. They find some stuff. They're adding to their pitching profile. They're giving them pitches. You got to throw this. You shouldn't throw that. Changing their profile. All of a sudden, you're seeing all this dramatic improvement with a lot of their starting pitchers. So to me, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I may do a column on this, because I think it's important. Chaim Bloom had the best of both worlds. He could coexist in both worlds. And that was, and to your point, which is a great point, he didn't have to, he had the shield. He didn't have to catch any shrapnel on the stuff related to Mozeliak. And Mozeliak, to his credit, I think handled it, pardon the old school cliche, I think he handled it like a champ. I do. Yeah. He knew he was there basically to take all the punches.
And he was less smug this year. There's no question he was less smug this year. He was definitely, and on one hand, it's hard to be smug when your cleanup hitter is Thomas Ajaysi on the last game of the year. But at a certain level, there seemed to be the guy you talked last week, whatever vacation place they're all going to go to, he looked like a guy that was about to go on vacation. Right. Is what he looked like. And I think that's fine. I think that's fine. So,
he was talking to Tom Ackerman yesterday on KMOX. It was the final Sundays with Mo thing. And he said something interesting, and maybe it meant something, maybe it didn't. But Mo made this cryptic remark because Tom Ackerman asked him, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? And, Mo, well, I'm just going to take some time. I don't have any plans now. There's no rush, blah, blah, blah. And basically went on to say something like, I don't think you'll see me much in St. Louis, but when I do, I'll make sure to, come say hello to everybody. And I'm thinking, oh, what, is he moving? Yeah. Is he going back to Colorado? By the way, he should do whatever he wants, but I find that interesting. Absolutely. Is he like, I want to get out of this place? Or is it just like, no, the new chapter begins maybe in this state where I've always wanted to live. I don't know.
More power to him, and he's earned. And I contrary to he's earned it, but also not everybody is so fortunate to get to. Not a lot of presidents of team operations, general managers get to go out with a plucky exit happy. What you gonna do next, champ? Exit interview. A lot of times it's like get the hell out of here. And so
no, I listen. I firmly believe this, and it's okay to add to what we said last week.
Oh, please.
I think that the problem I have with Mo's most fiercest critics. And by the way, anybody can criticize what they want. I'm not about like, but I don't have to necessarily agree with a lot of it or some of it. If you look at Mo, he was there 18 years. The last 3 years were really ugly. It was one of the worst 3-year stretches in modern franchise history, and I did the work on that. But even though their postseason winnings, started to taper off, I mean, the first 15 seasons of John, it's an 18-year tenure. The first 15 seasons were excellent. They really were. Yep, they were starting to disappear from the playoffs sooner. So I'm not denying that. I'm not being selective when I say this stuff. But I went back, and you know how much I revere, as you do, Walt Jocketty. You know, in Mo's 18 seasons, even with these three bad seasons in the end, over his 18 seasons, his teams had a higher regular season winning percentage than Walt Jocketty's teams did over 13 seasons. And Walt Jocketty had Dave Duncan and Tony La Russa, right?
Right.
And Jocketty in 13 seasons had more losing seasons, 4, than Mo did, 3, in 18 seasons. I mean, there's stuff like that I think has sort of been forgotten in all of the performative art, performative displays on social media. The first 15 years were pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And I just think it's unfair to just act like they didn't exist because you hate the guy so much. Anybody that wants to rip the final 3 years and all the mistakes he made and the things that they neglected, 100% on target, fair, bring it. But that doesn't mean, you wipe out all that preceded that, because to me, frankly, I think that's dishonest. You can be fair to John Mozeliak and also hold him accountable and rip him for what he screwed up.
I think we do that this week. We do that on this very podcast. So
right.
Here's my question. Here's a question as we transition into Bloom. Do you, on one hand, this is a nice advantage for Bloom to be able to have this season not really be his fault. On the other hand, I've noticed they've been kind of more transparent than I was maybe expecting them to be. They've been transparent. That's good. But they've actually been, I wasn't quite expecting to hear as much, it's going to be 26 and 27, as much as you've kind of heard of late. I would say if you'd have gone back to April 2025 and told that Will Leitch, who's basically the same guy. I mean, but I've just experienced the season.
Well, but wait a minute. You're an acclaimed author.
I guess
as Molly Ivins would say, you're an acclaimed author.
Arthur, yes.
So
but fine. So okay, so that's different. But certainly, I didn't hear a lot of talk in April 25 about how this was going to take 26 and 27. You really didn't hear a lot of talk about that then. That 27 thing has started to sneak its way into the conversation over the last couple of months. And on one hand, I get it in that you did not make as much progress in 2025. Like, I think if Gorman and Walker have that year that we were hoping they have, maybe you're like, okay, now these are dudes that we can build around, and they're going to be big parts of that 2017. Now they're as big a question mark as almost everything else on the team is. Right. That said, if we're going to give Bloom credit for, hey, you got a year to work around on everything while Mo takes the hit on the big league team, isn't it also fair to say, okay, but you also had a year to work around on everything. Why are we already you already had 1 year to work on this. I know you weren't officially in charge, but clearly you were in charge of getting the infrastructure and the foundations, the nuts and bolts right. Why are we already writing off 20? Not writing off is too strong. Well, it's writing off anything. But why are we already counting 27 as could be 28 till we got a competitive team? Could be. Which to me is, I get it. And the fact they're even kind of floating that is a sign that they are managing expectations. But I'll say that, we've talked about Cardinal fans having patience and what they're willing to accept and what they're willing to do. This year was a rough year. We saw it in the stands. When you start talking about hey, 27 could be another year like that, I know that having Bloom around is going to shake things up a little bit, and we're going to talk this offseason about all the things he's probably going to shake up. I don't know if I'm personally looking forward to 2 more years of Wow, of opposing broadcasters coming in being like, "What happened to this place? Where is everybody?" At a certain level, we can talk about 2 years until your contention. I do think at some point you do need to show something in the next
Yeah.
couple of years. And Bloom did have a year this year to start saying that infrastructure in place. I agree with you that he has done some of it, and I think that the pitchers that you're talking about, and I think there's a lot of the farm system moving up. That stuff counts. But man, I don't know if I'm really looking forward to 2 more years like 2025 until they start contending again.
Well, I would say I would tell you, my friend, that you should
I should prepare myself anyway.
yeah, you should prepare yourself. Listen,
But that's a lot to ask, right? That's a lot to ask. That's a lot to ask. Put
I
it this
don't
way,
know.
Pirates fans aren't asking their team, like whatever, all the frustrated Pirates fans, they do have Paul Skeens. They are not just saying right off the next 2 years
Right.
after the year that the Cardinals just had and the year that they had before. At a certain level, they asking any fan base to say, "Oh yeah,
Well,
we're not going to do shit for 3 years," is
well,
a lot, even in particular with where the Cardinals are right now.
I'm not saying fans should like it. I'm just telling you how I think it's going to be, right?
Yeah,
So in other words, don't get mad at me. I'm just because I do
I'm
my
not mad.
intel, and
Right, right.
I can tell you this: when before Bill DeWitt hired Chaim Bloom, the DeWitts brought him in. This was last winter, I think, or maybe at the end of last season, somewhere in the off season. And before they decided to hire him, he wanted to give them a presentation. And I've mentioned this, Bloom's presentation blew them away because it was so thorough and complete and covered everything, every detail, including a timetable. And, this thing lasted 3.5 hours. Like the DeWitts were like, wow,
Right.
he's really done his homework on this. And he even told them the truth about everything they got wrong, which I really respect. You're trying to go in and get a job and you're telling the boss in effect how they screwed this up, that up. Okay. But he's an honorable guy, so he wasn't doing that to cover his own butt. And by the way, I don't think that anything he's going to do with regards to this rebuild is going to be a matter of him trying to cover his ass. He's really not that kind of guy. He's an honorable human being. He's well respected and loved within the industry. He doesn't play games. He doesn't play politics. He's a straight shooter. He treats people well. He doesn't tell people what they want to hear. And the takeaway from that Bloom presentation is that, he told them it was going to be a full rebuild, not a tear down, but a full rebuild from the standpoint that it was going to take time. And he wants to take time because he has to get all of the people that he brought in on the minor league side, and there's more to come, integrated with whatever he's going to have in the front office with new hires, and everything's got to be integrated. And that just doesn't happen over a few months because there's more hires to come.
Right.
So he wants to do it what he thinks is the right way, which is probably going to be the slow way. And that's what the DeWitts agreed to. And I don't know how to define what slow is. Like, for example, I'm just giving hypotheticals. If Walker and Gorman if they manage to trade Arenado, Contreras, Gray, whatever, if they waive their no trade clause. But anyway, if Gorman or Walker come back next year, or they're back, I personally think Walker ought to spend the year AAA because he just needs it. But if Gorman, whatever, comes out of the off the ropes and he does well, and Burleson gets better and better and better, and Wynn not only plays great defense, but he's starting to hit. JJ Weatherholt comes up and he's really, really good. Liam Doyle comes up, and then you're going to have Quinn Matthews coming up, and then at some point early in 27, Takeo Orobi and Joshua Baez,
Yeah.
who they're really excited about, as they should be. He'll be in AAA next year. Here's a power hitting slugger, 30 plus home run guy who steals 50 bases, and he also walks a lot and doesn't strike out much. I mean, he's exactly what they need.
Right.
He could be up here at some point 26. So if all of these things fall into place, Ivan Herrera plays a whole season,
Right.
continues to surge.
Right. As a catcher,
I mean,
but anyway, but that's all our conversation. Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, you look at this and you're like, well, wait a minute, they've got some real talent in place. And so then maybe if enough of this talent that's on the come, if it materializes in a way that they hope, then all of a sudden you really got something to work with. And that might accelerate what you're trying to do.
Right.
Not that they're going to go out and spend a lot of money on free agents.
And
They're
nor
not
do I
going to
think
be
they
doing
should.
that.
No. But if they have a surprising year, like if 27, I'm not holding that much for 26. But if 27, these guys start to come together, I'd like for them to recognize that opportunity.
Right.
I don't want them to spend stupid money just to spend stupid money, but I also don't want it's hard for me to now say, oh, so we're just going to suck in 26 and 27. That's just the way it's going to be. At a certain level, you'd like to see something, particularly because we just had a year where Bloom was on the payroll.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to expect them to suck in 26, though.
Yeah, I think so too. But
27, I'm with you in that. By then, we should at least start to see something.
You're just seeing 27 snuck into the conversations a little bit more of like this could be a long process, and 27 might not be good either.
But again, if the owners and the players decide to shut things down, how does that affect 27? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's another. That's the thing. That to me is
that's why it might carry over to 28.
That's the subtext to almost every conversation that you have in baseball. Evan Drellich had a really good piece in The Athletic this morning talking about payrolls and the case for because it really just comes down to, do they how hard are they going to push for the salary cap? And if they push so much that they're willing to lose as much as my personal belief as someone, whatever one's thoughts about Manfred, one thing Manfred can actually say, he has never lost a regular season game to a labor dispute. That's kind of an incredible thing for a baseball commissioner to say. For all of Manfred's issues that people have with him, and some of them I understand, I get it. But he's never lost it. Like, he's proud. He talks about that all the time. That's and I have to say, people get frustrated. I've always argued when it comes to baseball, people get upset about PEDs, or they get upset about salaries. They get upset about all the things. To me, the cardinal sin is labor. Like if you lose games to labor, that's what loses baseball fans. We've proven we'll come back for PEDs. We've proven there's nothing you can do that can really upset baseball fans other than labor things. And so for me, that it still feels, maybe I'm naive, but it still feels like more a negotiating position on losing games in 27 than. But do I think there'll be like a lockout at the end of the 26 season and MLB.com won't have lists of the players' names like they did last time? Yes, I can see that. I can see that happening.
That was so bad.
That was fun. As someone that writes for MLB.com, it was super fun. It was super fun to be like, so let's just talk about theoretical baseball, people. That was a super fun time. So no one's looking forward to that. But there were not actually any games lost.
Right.
And I think that should be kept in mind there. But obviously it's uncertainty, and it's a reason that they're not going to spend. But I'll put it this way: if they're really writing off 27, and I think they're floating 27 as a bad year more than saying we're just going to suck in 27. That's the way that it is. But if they are really acting like 27, being competitive 27 doesn't matter, good Lord, they've got to trade Brendan Donovan. They've got to. The idea. I mean, after let's just say 28 is the first season you're trying to compete. Right. Newbar and Donovan are already gone by then.
I think so.
That's the last year of Nolan Gorman and Alec Burleson's contract. That's the Liberatore will only have one more year in his contract after that. Walker will only have one more year in his contract after that. If you're really pushing it all the way to 2028, and listen, Bernie, in some aspects of my life, I'm very eager for 2028 to get here. But when it comes to sports, 2028 seems a really, really long time away. But if you are going to get to the point that 2028 is the first year, everything must go. If you're not going to extend a guy, past 2028, look at Wynn. Wynn is a free agent after 2029. If you're really not going to compete until 2028 and just go into the last 2 years of Mason Wynn, a theoretical build-around guy contract, you are so far off in the future that everyone should be able to go.
Boy, you'd sum that up beautifully, because that's right. You can't. Bloom can't. In no way do I think he's kind of a half measure guy, like a halfway then back off, halfway then back. I don't think he's like that. However, your point is great, which is, if in fact you're going to rebuild, and if in fact there are not going to be long-term contracts for Donovan or Newt Bar. I don't know why you do that anyway, but just on a matter of principle, there's not going to be long-term contracts dished out right away, and Donovan in particular. Then there's really no point keeping them around. If you're going to do this, to use what you just said, go all the way with it.
Yeah, yeah,
because it'll get done right.
Yeah, and like
because if they can accumulate the prospect capital, as one person who works with him told me recently, he said, everyone needs to understand that it's okay if in fact we trade however many guys we're going to trade. They can't expect that it's we're automatically going to get some other teams like top prospect or like fourth prospect or sixth He said what Chaim and his guys will do, they're going to identify kids that are at the high A level, double A level, maybe about to go to triple A as people they're really excited about. And he said, and the key is to accumulate as many of them as you possibly can, because the more you accumulate, the more chance you have that some will pay off.
Yeah.
Like if you get 5 prospects, or you get 12 prospects, you got a better chance with the 12 prospects that you're going to have more success in the group. And
if you trust your system, you're going to have more guys that you believe will improve in the system as well.
Yeah, it increases your odds of like cashing in on these guys. And I think the Cardinals end up cashing in on some of the stuff they did this past season. I love that kid that hitter that they got from the Mets. I mean, Jesus Baez. I mean, he closed the season really strong, and you could see why the Mets signed him and why the Mets liked him so much. They already won that trade because Helsley, you know what I'm saying?
The Mets, like the Cardinals, are not in the playoffs.
Right. So I think they know what they're doing, and people, if all they need to do is look at this Red Sox roster that's going into the Yankee series, which is what a great wild card series.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Chaim Bloom people all over that roster, and there's even Chaim Bloom's. He's all over. I always mispronounce. Is it Crotchet, Garrett Crotchet, or Crochet? That's what I say. Oh, I'm such a dummy with these kind of things. But the only reason they have their ace, Garrett Crochet, is because three Bloom guys who were drafted by Bloom were traded to the Red Sox for him, to the White Sox, pardon me. So with his track record of drafting in Tampa Bay and drafting in Boston, and also like you see trades like flipping Christian Javier, the catcher, for Abreu, the outfielder.
Yep.
What an incredible trade. Right. So he's got a track record that tells you, see, all the dumb people, but all the dumb people, all they want to say is like, well, I traded Mookie Betts, Bernie.
Yeah.
That's by now, hasn't it been written by like everybody around the country, by me like 100 times?
You're just purposely trying not to pay attention.
He was ordered to trade Mookie Betts. And Mookie Betts' agent said, you better trade him to LA because that's where he wants to be. Otherwise, we'll just play this thing out or whatever, And, John Henry got mad, said, trade him. And not only that, you make them take David Price's money. That's
right. Good luck. Yeah.
Oh, but that's Chaim Bloom's fault. Okay.
Yeah. That's
my baseball IQ test for that one trade. That's how I can tell if you know a damn thing about anything that's been going on. So,
So this is our last show before the offseason. So I have 2 questions that we're going to close with. One is Cardinals related, and one I'm just going to do a general playoff thing. What do you think? We talked about doing emergency shows, and maybe Bloom comes out tomorrow and says, so it turns out that I'm actually Grand Emperor of the Cardinals now, and please salute me only as dear leader. And I feel like that would be worthy of an emergency show. But more accurately, I think we're going to wait till a move. I feel like actions when it comes to him. What do you think the first emergency show move will be? And this could be anything from I think not bringing back Miklasz does not count. I think it's got to be like trading someone over, or is it Marmol related? Is it because to me, one thing I wanted to touch about this season, one thing I do think we learned this season is that Oli Marmol is not an idiot. He's not a dipshit manager. He's a good manager.
He's certainly not the problem.
earned respect for Momo this year. I am comfortable with him coming back. I think the team is better with him. I think he's actually the ideal guy for next year, a guy that understands the situation that he's in, wants the job, can show that he can make a team a little bit better than it should be, and is on board with everything. And also, no offense, Ollie, but if things go wrong, can be chopped off and no one's going to be too upset. So for me, like, and I say that out of, I mean, respect for Marmol out of
Right.
that. Like, if things, like at a certain level, it's not like you bring in some high profile manager and things don't go well a couple of years and there's a big debate on what you do with him. If it doesn't, if they end up not being good for the next 2 years and Marmol takes the hit for it, it won't be the end of the world and I won't feel like some terrible thing has happened. I think if I learn the things I wanted to learn about Walker and Gorman this year, I do feel I kind of learned about Marmol. So I would be stunned. That would be an emergency thing if he's like, "Yep, Ollie's not coming back. Never mind." That would be a shock. But I also don't think he's getting extended. I think if he got extended, that might be worthy of a show. A, you can talk about Marmol, and B, what do you think the first? What's your prediction on the first emergency podcast is?
Well, first, let me just say this: I'd be stunned. I mean, absolutely floored if Marmol's not back. I'd say just about 100% convinced he's back. Number one, they have a great relationship. They've been talking all year long. It's not like they're we got to get to know each other. No, that part's already transpired, and I think that tells you a lot right there. They're very comfortable with each other, and I think Oli understands Bloom's vision of things, and Oli. It isn't because Ollie's desperate for a job. I think he likes the challenge of that. I think he liked this year, even though it was an impossible situation for him. You know, to like work, doing what he can to help young players get better.
He was more chill this year too.
Yeah,
like there have been
he
times
was.
where, to me, my issue with Marmol in the past was almost he was trying to prove himself too
Well,
much.
I agree.
And I didn't see that this year.
You know, and I thought he, in my opinion, I thought he proved himself last season because to get 83 wins out of that club,
Yeah.
you know, and they were supposed to be 10 games under 500 according to the, run differential and stuff. But anyway, and look, any manager that knows what they're doing with the bullpen as a manager, you might want to keep around. He needs more talent. He's like most managers who don't have a great record. They need more talent, right? And he needs more talent. So, and he had a lot of talent in 2022. And I know they screwed up game one of the playoffs. I get that. They won 93 games, and it seemed like they had a great atmosphere. They had, everybody great energy. Everybody just like playing their heart out anyway. Anyway, the one time he had a lot of talent, I thought he did really well. If we're talking about regular season, and regular season is where it starts. So I don't know, man. The first, to get to your question, even the first emergency podcast will probably have to be if they fire Marmol, which I don't think's happening, or if it can be any one of 3 or 4 guys that gets traded. If Donovan's the first to be traded, we got to drop everything. If it's Sonny Gray, that's a pretty big deal. If it's a Contreras, I think I'd be more surprised by Contreras. I'd be more. I expect totally Arenado because I think Arenado's going to open up his no trade clause protection. So I think anytime any of those guys are moved, I don't even think Nootbaar, if he's the first move, okay, I could get that. But Nootbaar being traded,
I'm not sure that. I'm not sure Nootbaar getting traded. No offense to Nude, but I'm not sure that warrants an emergency podcast.
No,
I think Donovan does.
I think Donovan does, and I actually think the other guys do too. That's how I would put it.
Walker or Gorman going is an emergency.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I should have said that, but absolutely. It's going to be a really interesting offseason. I think it's going to be an entertaining offseason, other than basically not doing anything. They're going to be doing a lot. Yeah. The thing that would surprise me the most is if they don't do a lot, really.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that we should get prepared for, I mean, it's funny, when we ended last year's show, we're like, wow, well, obviously we're going to get together in this off season. We're going to have a lot. And literally we didn't talk. I think we texted a couple times, but we didn't talk once the entire off season because they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing until signing Phil Maton in February. That was it. That's not going to be the case this year. I don't see any way that I'm curious to see. To me, my curiosity about the offseason is how bold they're willing to go quickly. Like how big? Like for me, they're gonna trade Arenado. I think they're gonna trade Gray. I know that Contreras said over the weekend that he'd like to be a part of it, but he kind of left the door open a little bit
Yeah, I
too.
think you
So
have to.
yeah, so I think that it would not surprise me if all those guys get traded. To me, the signal is if they trade someone like Walker or if they trade someone like Gorman. Because I don't know if they should. We can argue whether they should or whether they shouldn't. But that is a clear pivot away from okay, these are the guys we're going to give them another year. We're going to do that's a clear nope. I'm going with my guys now. And that's what that would and I'm not saying he even necessarily should do that, but that to me when I think of big moves, I think even bigger than I think trading Walker is bigger than trading Donovan. Like I think that would be a
I get what you're
very,
saying. I
very
do.
big
I
move.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know why I was thinking more of like established players,
Oh,
but yeah,
Donovan's
no,
a big
you're
deal.
right.
Donovan's a big deal
Yeah,
to trade,
yeah,
and
you're
like he's
right.
their best player. And so,
I think the trade Walker would be really huge news throughout baseball
yeah,
because
it'd be a sign too.
even though
Yeah,
he stinks, and I'm not trying to have it like halfway, but I think the one thing they need to do maybe is you give him a full season at AAA. He's never
yeah,
dominated that level
yeah.
whatsoever. He skipped the level, and he needs to play there. I mean,
It'd be
that's where you
fun to watch
rebuild.
him crush till like
Yeah.
and bring and yeah, just fun to watch him crush for a while. Be
And
good
maybe,
for him.
maybe frankly, he needs to be pissed off about stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
because I think he's resistant to coaching. Brent Brown admitted as much or acknowledged as much. And I don't think they owe him anything at this
yeah.
point.
Oh, I
You've
agree.
got to perform.
I
This
really
is,
like Jordan Walker, but they don't owe him anything
yeah. I
at
mean,
this
it's
point.
professional baseball, man. He
Yeah,
got
yeah,
$2.9 million to
yeah.
sign. They've been
And this is your
really, really
life right
pricey.
now. We talked about this
Yeah.
last week. That this is your life. This is your opportunity to be a legend and be a billionaire and being all of these wonderful things. This is the time for him to do it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
go spend a year AAA and make the Cardinals eat crow or whatever, put up massive numbers, and then we all live happily after. But to me, that step should be taken first before you just say, well,
Yeah.
I'm tired of this guy. We're going to trade him.
Yeah.
I think you got one more move left, and that's it. But they got to have the guts to do that as well. But then again, why would you want Jordan Walker sitting around unless he's going to get 550 at bats?
Yeah.
You would.
I mean, yeah. And I
well,
don't.
we're gonna bring him in as a defensive replacement. No,
Also,
I don't think so.
what did giving him all those at bats do for him this year? It did not. It did no good for him, and it did no good for the Cardinals. So
At least Gorman had 3 really good months. I don't know whether that's something to build on. I was very disappointed by the way it ended. Just ridiculous. So anyway,
okay.
yes.
So last question. We're going to the playoffs. Predicting baseball playoffs is an inherently absurd endeavor because I mean, like I did a thing for MLB where I was like, "What's your prediction on the Yankees Red Sox series?" I was like, "There's 3 games." Like I don't know, but at a certain level. Just to get it on the record, do you have a World Series prediction for me?
I was thinking about it earlier today, and I like Seattle in the American League because I mean they have power pitchers and they have power hitters. That's at least a good place to start. And I think in the National League, I'm torn. I'm really, really torn. And this is such a sucky answer, but I just can't pick anyone but the Dodgers, and I know that lacks no there's no imagination
I
whatsoever.
don't know. They
in that
finished third in the NL.
I know.
NL. Like it's
Yeah.
like I mean, it's not like they won 125 games. Where like they're the obvious pick. I think
Yeah,
what's interesting with the Dodgers is I think they're actually better right now pitching
Yeah.
than they have been at any other point this year, which may have been the plan all along.
I think Toronto's dangerous, but who are you? Have you picked yet?
I actually also like Seattle. I actually like the way it's. I will feel so terrible for Seattle because they're so perfectly situated. Like they even have like a good second round series. So I am probably pro Seattle. I think is the right call there. I think so.
National League?
And National League, I actually do think it's Dodgers.
Oh
sad to
man,
say.
and you and
do think
I,
it's Dodgers.
we both swear we
My
did not
second
talk
team
about
is
this.
my second team is the Brewers. There's a certain
I hope.
vibe about the Brewers right now that I think is good. Honestly, like I actually could have made an argument for the Cubs, but their rookie pitcher getting hurt was horrible timing for the Cubs.
And they say their closer is going to be back and in good shape, but we have to wait and see on that. No, I would love to see Milwaukee win it all. I really would, because I just admire that organization. You know this because I've talked about. I admire that front office and the way they know how to build a roster. I just have so much admiration for them. You know, they're going into this thing with the 23rd payroll in the majors, and they kind of ran out of gas or something late in the season. But Joe Sheehan had through Jay Jaffe. Joe Sheehan wrote something like quoting what Jaffe did, a study where he said there's no Jay Jaffe, who you and I both respect immensely. He wrote there's no correlation whatsoever between how a team finishes the regular season and how they do in the postseason, which I get, because I've always said that. I've always said that without doing the homework. There's just too much randomness in the postseason, especially with the extra teams in there now, right? Yeah. It's just so many things can happen quickly and change a series quickly.
This is my argument about people freaking out about payrolls, is that great, the Dodgers have this incredible payroll, and if they have a bad 2-day stretch against the Reds, it's all over.
Right. Hunter Green shuts them down. Yeah, Abbott shuts them down.
They could lose 2 out of 3 to the Reds during the regular season at home, and literally no one would notice.
Right.
And so, I think my argument for why there should not be a salary cap is actually that, the salary cap is the playoffs. The salary cap is just the randomness of the playoffs, but not everybody.
Yeah. Look at these payroll rankings. So real quick, Cleveland 25th, Detroit 18th, Milwaukee 23rd, Cincinnati 22nd, or maybe Cincinnati's 22nd or 23rd. And then the teams missing the playoffs. The Mets have used the competitive balance payroll tax, $342 million payroll. Atlanta $238 million, Arizona $213 million, San Francisco $218 million, Houston $245 million, Texas $238 million, the Angels $221 million. I mean, you got a lot of teams sitting on the sideline to spend a hell of a lot more money than 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are in the field, and even if I looked at those teams, like Seattle's got the 15th payroll. We could even throw them in. Yeah. They're right in the middle. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I just think that I just think people the equalizer is the playoffs. The equalizer is the playoffs. The Dodgers again have done all this stuff and spent all this money and brought in all these players, and all it's gotten them is a 3-game set against the Reds, who have Hunter Green and have Nick Lodolo and have pretty good pitchers. I don't know. It just feels like weird things can happen at any point. Do we not remember the 2006 Cardinals where Jeff Weaver turned into Nolan Ryan? Yeah, right. So weird things.
No, you never know, man.
Yeah. So
and the one I always say, Anthony Reyes.
Oh my gosh, Anthony Reyes.
Justin Verlander in Game 1.
He was incredible. I still have my DVD set. I don't even have a DVD player anymore, and I still have my DVD set of those. And that Game 1 is always a glory. All right, Bernie. All right, this has been a wonderful season. I've had an absolute wonderful time. I will send up the bat signal whenever it comes. Keep up the great work, and of course, where can everybody follow all your stuff? Of course, go to STLSportsCentral.com. I write 5 columns a week, do 5 videos a week. Our videos online. I love seeing I love hopping up and seeing our video. It's fun. It's great. Yeah. I do some other stuff on there as well. I visit Randy Carrick on his show once a week. And then you can catch me on Camo X a lot. And that continues through the off season. And I do Cardinal Territory with Katie Wu. You can find that on YouTube. And there's a podcast version of that, of my videos and all that. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much rounds it out. And we do Seeing Red, of course. We do Seeing Red. And for my stuff, I am, as always, at williamfleach.substack.com. I'd like to note, too, I have a long history. My birthday, I have an October birthday. I am going to be a round number birthday on October 10th this year. To give you the math on it, I turned 21 the day that Gary Gaetti hit the grand slam off Greg Maddux in the 1996 in LCS. So that gives you an idea of what number I'm hitting this year. I really wish I had some Cardinals playoff games to enjoy in that time, but nevertheless, dude, at least you stay in shape and you're vibrant and energetic. Here's what I am at age 66. I can't sleep because I have
like lower back issues and nothing works, and I'm just like, tossing and turning, trying to get comfortable. So yeah,
Bernie,
welcome to the glory years.
Bernie, there are people a third of both of our ages that
Yeah.
don't get nearly the stuff done that you get done. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
well,
I will help you with your sleep. We'll get you some relaxers or something. But
I need something.
you are not
Yeah.
going to persuade me that you are
I'm
not
in the golden
productive,
years, man.
and you
I'm in
are
the
not.
golden years.
Yeah, in the golden years. We should all have such golden years. I've got 5 videos and 5 columns, and I'm on Katie. Like, we should all have have energetic golden years, Bernie.
And I'll let you in on a secret, then we'll go. Like, I'm sitting here I call it the lair. It's
Hmm?
for all those Post-Dispatch columns I wrote from like 1995 on,
Hmm?
everything I did media wise in this here office.
I know. I've been in there.
And that's right. But what you don't know, I'm revealing it now for the first
Oh,
time.
awesome.
I actually live not only in the office, I live in this chair. I sleep in it.
Oh, okay.
My exceptional wife, Kirsten, she, it's like I'm a prisoner or something. She brings me,
That's great.
she brings me meals at the appointed times.
She knocks on it and puts in the bread underneath the door.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Our
okay.
cats are allowed to visit me, like, maybe 20 minutes a day, and that's
That's
it.
very sweet. That's very sweet. You get 20 minutes of cat time.
Yeah, visiting hours are over. And like one exception to the schedule, me being in this office, like living here basically, is if like Will Leitch and Brian Leitch want to come over and watch.
We pop by.
Yeah,
Yes,
watching a Illini game or something. Oh yeah,
that's a good one. That was a good one.
I'd be allowed. Then again, you may have to come up here and watch it.
We got Illinois Mizzou coming next year, so
all right.
We'll see what happens by then. All right, Bernie, have a wonderful offseason. We're gonna have more to talk about this offseason than we did last year. So, Bernie, thank everyone for listening to the show. It's been a wonderful year, and we'll be back in the offseason whenever something actually happens. Be safe.